All right, on this segment of Marc Time's Record Attic, we're going down to the sloppy end of the attic. Yes, the front end is sloppy, but this end is actually a lot sloppier. And we're going to get into some really sloppy records here. All right, let's sit on the floor. You know, some of these records are pretty funny. We got records here that nobody wants. And the deal with this is, these are albums that are miscellaneous artists, and they got groovy covers and stuff. One of my favorite miscellaneous artist albums is Greatest Hits from England. Look at the people on that. It's got Hedgehoppers Anonymous and even A Young Girl by Noel Harrison. But a lot of these records are just really crummy throwaway ads for things like Sanitone cleaners. They'll just slap a bunch of stuff on a cover and on a record and like making an ad for some cleaner. And then, you know, kind of going back to our cheesecake segment of last week, they'll just put a girl or two on the cover to try to, you know, get you to buy the record, you know, which is, this one's a country record anthology called Road Music, you know. And even this classical sampler with two records strategically placed, you know, like where something else would be placed, you know. So let's get into some other ones. These are the scourge of the bargain bins and, you know, a lot of budget bins at record shows. People just don't want these. But there's actually some very entertaining covers. This one, somebody wrote Mommy on the record. I guess it was Mommy's record. This is from Japan. Rhythm Parade, and it's got, you know, Japanese writing, but it's got things like Wild Thing, Hanky Panky, you know, Little Red Riding Hood by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. A lot of these are misspelled, but there's just something kind of perverse about that cover. That's one of the reasons why I bought it. Okay, this is actually a pretty cool album. This one here, Hot Wax Greatest Hits. This has got some great bands on it. If anybody remembers Honeycomb or The Flaming Ember, you know, 100 Proof. So you Sleeping in My Bed, Laura Lee. Others go with different themes, like this one's all about rain. It's kind of a sampler album about rain with the Four Freshmen and all people like that on it. Others are, let's find a good one here. Inter Sonore France presents. This is just a bunch of bad artists from the 90s. Here's an album that came out on Elektra Records called The Blues Project, and I think even that band, The Blues Project, named themselves after this record. Of course, everyone likes girls, 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 you know. One of my favorite series of albums is called Stereo Action, where they would take a stereo album and do ping pong effects to kind of demonstrate your stereo. That was a great series on RCA. RCA Dino Groove, very, very nice. Now we get into some of the hippie records like Smash Sounds with Sonny and Cher, and even people like King Curtis and Buffalo Springfield are on this. It's really cool. Here's a Las Vegas record. I mean, the possibilities are endless when it comes to these various artist albums. Here's an album called the Atlanta Pop Festival and Isle of Wight Festival, the first great rock festivals of the 70s. And boy, look at who's on there. It's Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Winter, everybody's on that record, you know. Very nice. This one here, let's get it together, with Lothar and the Hand People. It's kind of interesting hippie cover. Let's take a look at Lothar and the Hand People here. So, again, these are records that everyone generally hates. I mean, this one here doesn't look that good. It's called Jazz Greats, but it's actually got a whole bunch of really good people on it, including Art Tatum. Again, another rock festival record, long forgotten, Mar E Soul, with the Allman Brothers and ELP, Jay Giles. A lot of cool people on there. And of course, the Fonz, he was good for selling records for a while. This is Fonzie's favorites. Happy Days theme and a lot of oldies. This is kind of funny too. I gotta kind of back up on some of these because they're really kind of cool. It's Newport, New York. Now here's a pretty incredible blues record. Walking the Back Streets, Stax Blues Masters. And of course, can't get by any various artist thing without looking at the Soul Train record, the Afro on Don Cornelius. Really nice. This was a cool one too, fun rock. There was a bunch of fun rock type anthologies that came out. This is actually quite an historic record. It's called This Land Is Your Land, Songs of Social Justice. And of course it has people like Joan Baez and Leon Bibb and Pete Seeger and Josh White and all those other guys on it. What else? Girls, Girls, Girls. You know, here's one of my favorites. I bought this for the cover because this is when Short People by Randy Newman was a big hit, and this is some guy with short people on his hand. They're dancing to Short People. Of course, you got the Woodstock records. Here's another one that goes back to the cheesecake thing. I think the only reason they put her on it was because of her panties showing on the cover. Some of these early days of jazz albums, Bethlehem Records, they had some pretty cool compilations. And then there's always, let's go back to your childhood, shall we? Music to Live By. You know, the kid looks bored out of his mind, hanging out, listening to his dad's record collection, probably listening to some Perry Como albums or something like that. Then you get the handmade covers. Mutual Broadcasting System, Dick Clark National Survey. You know, some of these are just really incredibly bad. Just really terrible collections. Here's a Coffee Break collection with all that bossa nova music, that bad bossa nova music that came out for a while that everybody was into. Again, another great cheesecake cover. Scandalous Music for Nice Girls. What's on here? Besides the beautiful model here. Ray Conniff. Oh, the Kirby Stone 4 is on here. One of my favorite bands. We'll be doing a segment on the Kirby Stone 4. And then you had the endless boxes that came out of Reader's Digest, and other people put out these horrible, just horrible organ anthologies. Look at that. Music for every mood, background moods. Really cool stuff. This is just a little romp through. I've got more over here, but I think I'm just about done. A romp through some of the really badass compilation albums that you could find for pretty cheap, because let's find one more here that might resonate. It's called Beautiful People. It's like, wow, man, Beautiful People. It's got Electric Flag, John Kay, Grace Slick, all those people on it. And finally, another great Japanese cover. What's on here? You might want to know. Well, it's got Elvis Presley and Johnny Rivers, and I don't know what's going on with this lady on the cover here. It's got the Spotniks of all people and Percy Sledge. Yep, love those various artists' albums here on Marc Time's Record Attic.